Alright, so if you're like me and your ISP doesn't let you port forward, if you want to host a dedicated game server, you're going to have to do it through a VPS. Or if you just don't want to host a dedicated game server on your main computer or whatever, where you are, you're going to have to use a VPS probably. This is not going to be a video showing how to launch a dedicated server from a VPS, because every game is set up a little bit differently, but also very similarly. Usually you just have to find a SH and launch it, but getting to that step takes extra steps for some games. We're not going to be showing how to do that. This is just going to be showing how to actually set up and configure the VPS so you have a base and you have a place to launch whatever game you want to launch from it. I'll do videos in the future showing specific games and how to actually launch them and set them up. So the first thing you need is a VPS provider. I'm going to be using Linode for this example, but I've used DigitalOcean in the past, and I'm currently using Hetzner for my main dedicated game servers. Linode and DigitalOcean are nice because they will oftentimes have coupon codes somewhere you can find online, or promo codes that will give you like 3 months with $100 for your account to do a trial period. I do think they ask for proof of payment though, so unless you have a way to pay for things online with like a PayPal or a credit card, they might not let you make an account. If that's the case, you'll have to do some research and find a VPS you can use. But that's up to you. That's a you problem. Step 1 is just find the VPS. I'm going to use Linode for this example. So once you found the VPS provider you want to use, you need to set up a, sometimes they call it clouds, Linode calls it a Linode, but it's usually just a cloud server. You're going to set that up and you're going to do the basic initial configuration. I would say when asking for a distribution, use Ubuntu. Ubuntu is pretty solid, it's standard, it's good, it'll do what you want it to do. And then choose your region. I'll choose Germany. So here is where you have to choose your plan. If I'm just going to host like a Killing Floor and a Counter-Strike server, those really aren't going to take up that much power. So I could easily use the Nano 1 gig here, but if you're going to be running something really powerful, you might need a more powerful CPU. So make sure you look at what it's going to require to run your game's dedicated server and then choose accordingly, but Nano 1 gig works fine for most games I have found. So then once you've decided on your plan, you're going to name it. I'll call this one test. Then you're going to enter a root password. This password is important. Don't forget this password. And then I think it's good to start up. So it's going to start creating. While this is creating, you're going to need some other tools. You're going to need PuTTY, which is going to be what allows you to access your VPS and put in the commands you need to tell it what to do. And you're going to need WinSCP. Well, you're not going to need WinSCP, but WinSCP is very useful because it's a file manager that's going to allow you to move files to and from your computer and your VPS very easily. So I would highly recommend WinSCP. Once this is done provisioning, I'll cut the tutorial back in. Alright, so now it says running. Our Linode is all set up. So the first thing we're going to need to do is get in there and configure it now that it's good. So grab your server's IP address and then open up PuTTY and put it in PuTTY. It's going to say there is no key or cache for this. That's fine. Accept it. And now you're going to come to a login screen that looks like this. You don't have a user yet. So we're going to have to make a user. That's going to be step 1. So you're going to have to log in through the root. So type in root and then remember that root password I told you not to forget. You're going to need to type that in right here. And that'll let you in. And now we're logged in on the root. So now it's time to make our user. First thing you're going to do is type in useradd. Oh yeah, userass. useradd-m or /m -m whatever /m-m. Keep in mind this m is a lowercase m. There will be points later where we have to use uppercase letters, and these commands will be case sensitive. So if you see a lowercase, use a lowercase. If you see an uppercase, use an uppercase. So to add our user, we're going to do useradd-m and then your user's name. My username will be Givens. Now we have a user, but our user needs a password. So you're going to type in passwd and then your username, Givens. What's your password going to be? Put in your password, and now you have a user with a password. However, your user is going to need some permissions. So in order to do this, you're going to type in sudo. Sudo is kind of like running something as administrator. If you ever have something say you don't have the rights for this or I can't find this, try doing sudo. That's saying, no, I do have the rights for this. I do have permissions for this. It's running as administrator, in the most simplest terms. So you're going to type in sudo usermod -a, lowercase a, -uppercase G, sudo, and then your username. And it didn't say there was an error, which means it worked. So now we're going to type in nano. Nano is the text editor. So we're going to type in nano /etc /passwd, enter. And it's going to come up to a screen that looks like this. You're going to go down to your new username that you just made, and you're going to type in, well, you're going to change this from bin sh to bin bash. Hit Control X to escape. It's going to say, do you want to save this? You're going to say Y for yes, and then hit enter to save it as. And there you go. Now you have a user set up, and your user has permissions. So for security reasons, you don't want people to log in to your root. Or be able to log in through root. So what we're going to do now is we're going to log into our user, make sure our user can log into the root, and if it can, then we're going to set it so that you cannot log into root unless you go through this new user you've made. So we're going to log in as our new user, which is Givens. And it looks like we were able to get in just fine. So now you're going to type in su space dash, and then you're going to hit enter. And it's going to ask for a password. It's asking for your root password right here. So you're going to put in your root password, and it says root at localhost, so you're in on the root right now. So good job, you're able to get into the root through your user, which means we can disable root login now. So you're going to type in nano /etc /ssh /sshd-config. It's going to bring you a big screen with a lot of things that looks like this. All you're going to do is come down to where it says permitrootlogin, and you're going to change this to say no. Control X, Y for yes, and then enter to save it. And now you're good. You can't log in through the root now, but you can log into the root through your user. So now we are going to do the final steps of the configuration. Right now, you have a user, and you have a user that you can log into it just fine, which means technically you actually are set up right now. Congratulations, you have a VPS and you can use this to start hosting dedicated game servers. However, there are a few things you should do before you start launching game servers. The first one is probably update. If you type in sudo apt update, it'll ask you for your password, put in your password, and now it's gonna update all your packages or repositories or whatever. When that's finished, it'll take like maybe 10-15 seconds. There we go. When that's finished, you're going to type in sudo apt upgrade. And now it's going to ask yes or no. Put a Y in and hit enter for yes. And now it's going to update a bunch of just the stuff on your computer. It says updating firmware, whatever. It's updating. It's good. It's good. So then when this finishes up, we're going to have to reboot the system, which is easy. If I recall, you just type in sudo reboot, and then we will have our VPS set up, updated. All we have to do then is set up the Apache server so that we have an auto download for our dedicated game server, and you are going to be good to start hosting your servers. But we got to wait for this to finish first. All right, now once it's done updating, it'll tell you there's a current pending upgrade. Just hit enter for OK, hit enter again. And then you're going to type in sudo reboot. It's going to say remote closed down unexpectedly. That's because your VPS is currently rebooting. So I would say give it 10-15 seconds and then try to log back in through the VPS or through PuTTY. All right, so we're back to logging into our user. It didn't take 10 to 15 seconds. It took about 1 minute, so time might vary, but anyway. So now we're gonna come back in, log into the user we made, and now we're going to set up our Apache server. So you're gonna type in sudo apt install Apache, Apache 2. You can ask for your password. Done. Yes, I would like to install it. And now we've got Apache installed. However, we have to enable it and start it. So then you're going to type in sudo systemctl enable Apache 2. It'll say it executed it. If you don't do sudo, it will ask you to verify with your password. So if you want to, you cannot use sudo just to make sure you know for a fact it's working. So you can also type in to start it now. So I've enabled it. But if I want to start it and I don't use sudo, I can do systemctl start Apache 2, because now that we've enabled it, we need to start it, and then it'll say authenticating. You just give it your password, and the authentication will be complete. So you don't need to use sudo before systemctl, but if you do use sudo, it won't ask for an authentication. So there you go. Now you have your Apache server set up. The three commands were apt install Apache 2, then systemctl enable Apache 2, and then systemctl start Apache 2. And you can test to see if your Apache 2 server is running by using winscp. Actually, wait, before we do that, you're going to need to give yourself permissions to edit and move things to your Apache server. So you're going to type in sudo chown -R -v, your username, mine's Gibbons, and then /var/www/html. And now it says the ownership has changed from root to Gibbons. That's good. So now we can test and make sure it works by opening up winscp. And we can log in to our VPS. Give it your username. Just tell it yes, that's fine. And as you can see right here, we are currently logged into our VPS starting in our home users directory. So now we can go to var www.html, and we'll see we have an index here, which means that we have installed the Apache server. And if we try to delete this, it will allow us to delete it, which means we do have ownership over this directory, and we can move into it whatever we want. And there you go. That's all there is to it. You now have a VPS set up to start hosting game servers. I'll do a follow-up video or two after this one showing how to actually launch the dedicated servers from this VPS that you now have set up, but that's all there is to setting it up. Sorry I got a little rambly and lost towards the end, but hopefully you were able to follow it. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll try to do my best to answer them.